you so much again, everyone, for joining us and again, traveling and still making time. And I am so pumped for this webinar. I feel like I've been working on it forever because it was kind of my December project, when things start to wind down. And I'm sure for many of you, you're like, there was no wind down for me. It's been crazy.
I was joking with people on calls this week of we always think, oh yeah, December's going to be kind of slow. We'll have some time to do those projects, do that housekeeping at work.
Yeah.
And then December just disappears and you're like, oh, we only got done 2 things out of the list that we wanted to do. It was kind of a crazy end of the year.
Yeah, really is. And it continues to be just so crazy. But that's why, that's why we also wanted to do this particular webinar, of course, because, creating a marketing plan for 2023 and just getting ahead of everything. So that's the best thing you can possibly do is just get so ahead of all of this. And it can be very simple. So that's why I'm really excited for this webinar too, to just show you how simple it can be as well. So we'll get all into that stuff. But a couple of things that I do want to mention before we jump in here is first, if this is your first time joining us, I am Stephanie and I am education and marketing coordinator. So do a couple different things, but go ahead, Scott.
No, I'm not going to interrupt. I don't.
Well, I was just going to say, if you watch our other videos, you might hear the same voice again. And we like to tag team. And so Scott is also on here. So Scott Rutz, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, let me introduce myself. I am Stephanie's professional wingman and collaborator, whatever you want to call it. But no, I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at Travefy. So if we haven't met before on a demo or a call or something like that, just really excited that you're here, and we're excited to kick off the new year with you. We have a lot of really exciting content and information for today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge. But the other thing is that Scott is being modest because he comes from a marketing background. And so he's just major guru over here. So having him on these webinars is really good. So just know that there's a lot of good insight that you're about to get.
Keep your expectations low so that we just over deliver every single time.
Yes. Please always do that so we can always just get over that bar. And then another thing that's really important too is that we are recording. So all of these webinars we do record. So that way, if you do get a client call or something, that's okay. We'll have it on academy.travefy.com. We also put it on our YouTube channel, so you'll have them on there. But we'll send, but again, you'll get a reminder, an email from Zoom with the recording, but you can go check it out whenever. I think honestly, it's ready 15 minutes after. So if you go back to your Zoom registration, you can just watch it, which is really cool. So it'll be available. The other thing too is that do use that Q&A area. I don't know how much we'll get through because Scott and I will both be kind of coming in or doing the speaking through the webinar as well. So we'll try to get to those questions as best as we can, but we should have time also at the end to go through some of those. But if there's some that we don't get to, just feel free to just email our support team. And if it needs to go directly to us, just say our name and we'll have them send it to us. But just email us at professional@travefy.com. Or you can also just message in your account. So if you have a Travefy account, you can just live chat in there and just send us a question too. And then we'll make sure our team gets it to us if it's for us directed. But if it's just Travefy, we have a whole team that can answer that for you. And then the other thing you'll see as we get going through here, this is my favorite thing about this webinar that's very different from other ones, is we have so much free stuff that you're about to get in here. So free downloads, just other articles that will help, just a lot of different resources. So I actually made a list of everything that I will share with you at the end, and you will get that. So whenever we start talking about this free download or this, we will share all of that with you at the end, and we'll walk you through things. So we'll make sure to get that to you. But then also the other thing is, since this is a Travefy Academy webinar, if this is your first time joining us for Travefy Academy specific, it's a little different than when we do our product, Travefy webinars. And really Travefy Academy, it's a way to, create educational free content just to help power you, the travel advisors. And so again, we don't really talk about Travefy as a product as much. It comes up a little bit, but we don't focus on that. We just instead, explore ways that can just help you grow your business in marketing, sales, all those topics. So you'll see a lot more coming in early this year. So later this month, we'll have another webinar. Next month, we have another webinar that is going to be very related to one another that helps jumpstart your sales and marketing for 2023. So get excited. It'll be awesome. But for this webinar today, here are the outline and the goals. So here's what we're going to be doing. So first of all, we're here today because you want to create a marketing plan. So we're going to talk about just really the basics of what a marketing plan is, what it entails, why it's important to have one. And then we're also going to talk about, how do you get started? And in that, we're going to focus on 3 different key elements to help get you going. Like when it comes like social media or email marketing. So we'll dig deep into just 3 of those top elements. And then we'll talk about, other ideas. There's going to be a lot of ideas in here. And then also just bonus actionable tips along the way. So it's going to be awesome. There's a lot of really cool stuff. So
love it. It's going to be thick and juicy, full of valuable information.
It will be.
Actionable ideas, every buzzword you can think of.
Every buzzword, throw it in because that's what you're going to get. It's going to be so much. But with that, now that we've got you all excited about this, are you ready? Scott's going to take it away. So
we need one of those Scott? Intro sound effects.
I know.
You don't have any of your sound effects.
No. Oh. I need to get them ready for the next one. I should have.
Next time.
Yep. I'm sorry, everyone. Next time we will have more sound effects ready.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun. Drum roll. What is a marketing plan? Scott, can you help us answer this question?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to kick things off with just some basics, and we're going to kind of get progressively deeper into creating your marketing plan as we go through the webinar today. So first off, what is a marketing plan? Firstly, if you have any background or experience in the marketing world or have owned your own business and stuff, you may have a few thoughts or suggestions as we go through this. And one of the reactions you might have is, wow, this is really simple. Marketing plans could be more complicated. You're absolutely right. So there are a lot of different ways, processes, methodologies to creating marketing plans. We're just really trying to boil it down, keep it simple for this webinar. We're not trying to add a ton of complexity. One, because we want this to be as actionable as possible for you so that when we give you that freebie, it's going to be a 2-page template that you can start literally printing off and drafting out your marketing plan for 2023. And so we want this to be super actionable for you. Now, as well, marketing plans can really be as simple or as complex as you want in there. Now, again, we're keeping it simple. It's a lot easier to kind of layer in more complexity as you go versus starting really complex and then trying to figure out, how do I simplify this down? So that's why we're keeping it simple. A lot of times in my experience in the last several years of chatting with travel advisors, one of the paralyzing things is that they start out by biting off more than they can chew and getting too complex straight out of the gate. And then it's kind of like paralysis of trying to figure out which way to go. We want to start simple and then work and make sure 1, 2, 3 things are working. And then you can layer in, add more from there. So that's why we're keeping it simple. Now, a marketing plan is really just a roadmap, a guide of what you're trying to accomplish throughout a given period of time, how you're going to do it, and some of the specifics, but keeping it at a very, very high level. You're not going to get into tons and tons of really minuscule detail of like, what specific Facebook post or Instagram post am I going to do on this day? That's not necessarily the level of detail we're getting into on a marketing plan, but high level goals and roadmap. Now, a marketing plan, you also don't have to be fancy about it. It can literally be a Pages doc if you're a Mac person, a Word doc if you're a Windows person. It can be your legal pad or a random piece of paper laying around the house, and you're just drafting out some goals and some ideas and stuff, and we're going to walk you through those main components of it in there. But ultimately, a marketing plan is really getting at the inputs of your business that will determine the outputs that you want to achieve in there. So inputs to get to outputs. And that's a really kind of paring it down, distilling it down to the most basic level. And ultimately, a marketing plan can feel overwhelming, but we're going to really try to guide you through the process to keep it simple, straightforward, very digestible. You might even jot down some ideas while we're going through the webinar today. And then, as Stephanie mentioned, we'll have a free download that you can use. Again, it's just going to be a 2-page template. We'll share the link at the end. It's a PDF. You can just print it off and you can actually start writing on it, filling it out, etc. But we'll also walk through it. So we're going to go through a lot of the process, the methodology, the thinking process of the marketing plan, and then we'll walk through the 2-page template to kind of walk you through that if you're new to this with that method. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over back to Stephanie to talk a little bit more about marketing plans.
Yeah. So yeah, really, really awesome. But one thing that I wanted to do though is, because don't we love stats that prove why we're here is important? So I found these stats and they are crazy. So just a couple of things that I want to highlight before handing it back over to Scott is just why it's so important to have a marketing plan. So look at these numbers. These numbers are so insane. I had to like double take these multiple times. So I was like, what? But it says marketers that reported they proactively plan their marketing are 331% more successful than their peers. And also organized marketers are sick. This is insane. 674% more likely to report success. I mean, that is crazy. We're not talking like 5% more likely to be better. No, this is like proven. It's so crazy. And the other thing too is, doing this webinar, putting this together, all this content, I chatted with a bunch of different travel advisors to get, like, what do they do? What does their process look like? And where do they find the most value in marketing? And, I was hearing so many quotes like this that are just, it's marketing is core to, core to their business to bringing in clients. So it's obviously just so important, so just had to highlight those of like, again, why this is really important. And again, as Scott mentioned, and you'll see during this session today, that it's actually really easy to set yourself up for success in marketing. So that's the coolest part. But now to look at high level, what about getting started? Like, what are all the basics? Yeah. Like what do we need to do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. So this is probably where a lot of people that don't have a marketing background kind of stop and they're like, I don't know. what do I do? Where do I start? And so we're going to focus in the first kind of main components we're trying to boil it down to keep it really simple are what, who, and how. So what, who, and how. So to walk through that, firstly, what is your primary goal for your business in 2023? Specifically, like I'll give you examples what your goals could be, but it's not limited to this. It might be around, what do you want to do with your business? What do you want to sell? Are you building towards something? Do you want to get into a new specialty? Maybe you've been focusing on one area and you really want to get into another area or add to it. Maybe you want to hit new gross sales numbers or something of that nature. It can also start to get really specific. I was at a conference with Travel Only, a host agency we work with up in Canada, our lovely friends from Canada. And a lot of their agents really focus on and see the power of selling groups in group cruises, things like that. And so some agents might want to get into selling groups. Well, where do you start? Got to start small. Try to sell 1 room, try to sell 5 rooms, try to sell 10 rooms, those types of things. So you got to start somewhere. So those goals, I don't want to get too focused on one example of a goal. It can be a lot of different things. And I would suggest starting with 1 to 3 goals, not too many, 1 to 3 at a top level for your primary goals for your business in 2023. Now, the next step after you start mapping out what is your primary goal, the next step is thinking about who. Who is your target audience and your target market for those goals? Because those have to match up. If those don't match up, you're going to have a really hard time along the way. So you might also want to be thinking about who are your natural networks and circles of influence, the organizations or community groups that you're a part of, and what types of interests or travel would they be interested in. That can also influence each other that way. But really think through who those target audiences are and target customers that way. So a couple examples. Maybe you really want to get into destination weddings. Well, your target audience in that case is primarily going to be brides and mother of the brides for decision making, that way of who you want to connect with. Not always, but generally speaking, that's who you want to focus on. Maybe you want to focus on kind of bucket list travel, and you want to focus on empty nesters with that. And so that's the demographic, the persona that you're looking at. Or maybe you want to focus on millennials. You want to get into adventure travel, luxury travel, things like that. You want to focus on Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennial, whatever that might be. Those are different examples of who you're trying to target. Now, once you are thinking about the what and the who, now we're getting one level deeper into how, because once you figure out what and who, then you really need to think about how and where am I getting in touch and communicating with these people, interacting and engaging with them. So the how is, how are you going to pursue and achieve this goal? Really what you're getting into in marketing terms are marketing channels and tactics and things like that. Now, I purposely try to leave marketing lingo and that kind of inside lingo out of webinars like this, just because not everyone has a background in that. And so what I mean by marketing channels, just to define that, is really about the different ways or methods that you're going to interact with them. So maybe you're going to use email marketing. That's a channel. Maybe you're going to use Google ads or Facebook ads to try to find people when they're searching. Maybe you're going to use community events or networks that you're a part of. Maybe it's a church or a chamber of commerce or something like that, to interact and engage with people. Those are different types of channels that you can work through to accomplish your goals. So the channels also starts to get into a little bit of the methods and the execution of how you get into it without getting too deep into what I was mentioning earlier of I'm going to post this specific post about this specific thing on this specific date and time. That's not where we're getting at. We want to focus on high level of the different ways, the different methods that we're going to pursue that goal, who we're going to try to interact with and engage with, and then how through those marketing channels in there. So those are the basics: what, who, and how. But then lastly, you do want to start thinking about how you're going to track performance with your marketing plan. And so we're not going to get into that super deep on this webinar just because of the amount of content that we're getting into this. And again, we want to keep it simple, but you do want to start thinking about metrics of success. And it's okay if your metrics of success aren't super objective, like I want to get into this new specialty. Well, you're going to have kind of a subjective way of determining whether you accomplish that. So it is important that you set goals that are really trackable, actionable, realizable, and that you can determine success. But the goals on the flip side can be really objective. I want to sell $1 million gross this year, or I want to sell $500,000 gross this year, or something like that. You can do that. And those are really helpful because you can track against them, but they also might be a little bit softer, and that's okay too. But start writing those out and thinking about that, of how you're going to track that success in there. Now, part of that, of tracking success, you might want to start thinking about milestones throughout the year. Maybe it's quarterly or monthly different milestones that are kind of checkpoints in getting to your goal, so that you know if you're on the right path to getting to that goal by the end of the year. So overall, once you've established your primary goals, your target audience, how you're going to pursue it, now it's time to start actually getting into the details of creating a plan and how to get there. So Stephanie's going to walk you through just some basics of it, of starting points that we thought of that we think would be helpful to help you start thinking about how you start piecing together the actionable parts of your marketing plan.
Awesome. Yeah. So now you know what the big picture really. And so then it's, off to the pen and paper part of, where do you actually start? So the first step is just creating that plan. It is easy to get focused, on a single time frame, but for this, we're going to look specifically at an entire year because it is January. So it's the perfect time. But also just how you can think about how can you engage with customers for, the next 12 months. So looking at that, when you're scheduling, looking at the big picture here, it's really helpful. And again, we'll talk about this because we have that free download at the end that will help you with this part. But just think about, the scheduling process of month to month. Think about what are some targeted dates, some relevant themes, some holidays, plot those in ahead of time. So that way, you're not like, whether you're doing email marketing or social media or video TikToks, you're not, the day of like, oh my gosh, I forgot today is a very important day that needs to be out. You're ready for it. And so that's a good thing. And that's the whole nice thing, is that this will make it easier and more obtainable because you're ready and understand what's coming next, which is really cool. But then the other part of that is, so you have the basic of like, just looking at the calendar, the big picture. But then the most important part is, what is your content? What, and like Scott mentioned, like in those channels, what are you doing? What's the content looking like? Where are you putting that at? So that's where we're going to spend more time for the next part of this webinar, is talking about kind of the different content. I call them elements, just because content elements, just different ways to plug in this stuff. But we're going to focus really high level on 3 of them today, which these are the 3 that Scott and I decided were really, we didn't really just decide this. This is actually like, this really is like the most important part of every agent's marketing plan. When you talk to agents, when you see the data out there, all of that. And really it's social media. It's a big one. Obviously, we all know the good old social media, email marketing, which is another huge one. And then we also want to highlight blog and article SEO. These 3 you can hit the ground running with very quickly and easily. There's also many others that we'll start talking about at the end, just to throw in, get your mind thinking. But like, you can start making landing pages, doing promotions, live virtual events, video, Facebook. There's a lot of things, but again, we don't want to get overwhelmed here. We want to just keep it simple. And so that's why we're going to focus on those 3 elements. So it's basically what it is, think about your schedule, and then, what channels are you sending it into, and what is that content looking like? And they all just come together really easily, actually, once you look at the big picture.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in, because if any advisors are on the webinar today and looking at that list and saying, oh my gosh, I don't do any of those, or I only do one of them, that's okay. And if you have zero interest into getting into like creating a blog and articles and search engine optimization, that's okay. But we're going to walk you through some of the basics so that you can think about it and really better understand the tools that can be in your toolbox to work towards your marketing plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tools in the toolbox. That's all it is. And again, throughout this time, we'll give so many different examples that might like spark an idea, like, oh, I won't do it that way, but I can spin it this way for something that you like and that works for your audience. So yeah, lots of great stuff. So jumping in though to this. So I want to start off again, we're going to focus on 3 elements that could really just help you get started. And the first one is social media. Social media is just the biggest, it's impactful. It's tons of opportunity. It's free. I feel like most travel advisors are using social media at some extent. And so one thing, good friend Sarah here had said, like, I reached out to her because I follow her on Instagram. I'm like, man, you do a lot on Instagram. And she said it has become the second biggest driver of trip requests for her. So even though she's using Instagram, like yours might be different. We have been hearing about TikTok, which is really cool. TikTok's been growing. There's a lot of new advisors entering and coming from TikTok. Like that's where they're coming from. And but there's a lot. So you just want to find your place. But all of these tips that we share with you can be very relevant for all of them. So just finding what works for you, really. But I just love these quotes. It's proof is in the pudding right there. But getting started with social media. So really and this is one of my favorite parts ever of this, is literally the first thing to do is brainstorm your content. Like just get out a pen and paper and just start coming up with ideas. And here's some ideas to get you thinking. So the first one that I love talking about is just recurring themes, because this one's going to give you like plentiful of ideas that you can keep using on and on again. So it's really, again, it's a simple way to create so much content with a recurring theme. It could be weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, you can decide that. But you can do some things, like some examples I've seen before is like Travel Tip Tuesday, or just destinations, just create multiple posts around one destination, or maybe a resort or a cruise. Like if you go to just say, for example, it pops in my head is if you go to Cruise 360 and you're able to get onto those ships and you can take all these photos and get all this information. You could build a whole month of content around that. You can do a lot. in there. Another one is just sharing client trips or sharing highlights of their trips or reviews, your personal travels, which is probably one of the best ones, the coolest ones, because you're the expert showing your expertise. So really cool there. And then another one is just, creating content niches I put in here. So again, you want to think of like your sales and promos if you do that, or also thinking, again, that's why looking at the big picture of your schedule, is it wave season? Is it coming up? Is it spring break time that you want to start planning spring break stuff? Think about that kind of stuff too. It plays into there. But yeah, so lots of different ideas. We do have a free thing that I'll share after this. There's an article and a webinar that we've done in the past with a bunch of ideas that you can take and run with on social media. So I'll share that with everyone. But then the last one here is platforms, which this is really important. Whenever we have webinars around social media, it's really important to remember that, you don't have to do it all. A lot of people will pick one or two and just be consistent on that. That is typically the best. So just find, where is your audience and what do you enjoy doing? Where are you seeing value? And use that platform.
And if you choose a platform, here's my tip. If you choose a platform, do it well.
That's a great tip.
It's a common misstep that a lot of people get kind of over eager and think, I'm going to do 5 different social media platforms. I'm going to do Twitter. I'm going to do LinkedIn. I'm going to do Instagram, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And that's great if you are driven like that and you can actually map and manage all of that. But we would strongly recommend that if you have to choose 1 or 2 and do them well. Don't choose 5 and maybe possibly post once or twice a year. It's not going to be as helpful for you. And you want to really focus your time so that you can get maximum benefit out of a given social media channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so important that just pick that and then run with it. You don't have to do it all, which is really good because I know you all are very busy. So that's helpful. And then the other thing, since you are always really busy, the biggest thing, that's why this is really important for a marketing plan, is scheduling. You can have this stuff ready to go and really be ready for it. So we've already talked a little bit about this, but planning, plotting out those holidays, events, all of that. The other thing though, that I like to touch on is there's a lot of really cool resources out there that you can use that will help make it easy for you to just see it visually, whether you're writing it out on paper, but there's also a lot of ways that you can just use different tools. Google Drive, Excel spreadsheet, that's one of them. And in fact, I have a free download for you on that, which I will get to. But then there's other ones. We've seen Trello, Asana, which are just kind of like, just project managing softwares. And usually they have free free options in there. But everyone just kind of finds what works for them. But it is really helpful just to be able to plot things out in there. There's also the scheduling software of, like Facebook Meta Business Suite has their own. So if you have a Facebook page, you can use their scheduling tool for free. There's Hootsuite, Buffer. There's a lot of them. So if you want to plan, a certain time of the week that you start, or maybe a month ahead, you plot out and you start scheduling everything, and then you just set it and forget it. You don't have to go like, oh, I need to post today. So you can take out that part, which is nice. But on those planning resources, so one thing, and our good friend Karen, who's on here, I saw she came through the chat, she shared this with me and I had to share. So here's some examples, especially when it comes to social media, but you can use this for anything we're going to talk about with email marketing and blog, just get a high level. But with social media especially, one thing that travel advisor Karen did in here is that she used Trello, and she basically set out all of, the dates for each month, and then put any holidays or like national days that you want to recognize. So that way, when you're planning, you can see everything plotted out, and then you can go ahead and add your content in. This is especially helpful if you do pick like different content things, like every, once a week I want to do a travel tip, and then every week I need to do this, and it'll help you just plan that out. Really helpful. But then another one is this one right here. This social media scheduling template. This actually will be available to you for free, and it's just a Google Drive, one that you can use in here. But again, it's very simple, but it just still high level allows you to plot things in and just see the big picture. And know what's coming, and all that good stuff. So again, hopefully this seems really easy, because it really helps just to, view it at a larger scale like that.
It's kind of like an engine. It's something kind of big, but all the little pieces are fairly simple, just pieced together into something that's more complex that way. But the one thing I want to underscore with social media is how it's easy to lose sight of how incredible social media is. For all of the negatives that might be out there, the positives. Think about even 10, 15, 20 years ago, the ability to push out marketing, messaging, personal messages or experiences to any of your audience, essentially at no physical cost, no change of currency or things like that. You can reach out to your entire audience of hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people from your phone in the palm of your hand. You have a pathway, a gateway, a window into pushing out communication or marketing to all of them. It's incredible, an incredible tool and asset for your business. So definitely capitalize on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's like free, and you can even go live if you're like, I don't have anything scheduled today, but I'm doing something really cool and I'm going to go live. You can do that. It's the cool thing. It's really awesome. But that's social media. I mean, again, like, we can have an entire webinar just on social media. We can have an entire webinar just each of these. But those are hopefully, ideas of ways to think about it, and then get some ideas along with that as well. But the second one here is email marketing. I love, with Danielle Dybeck said this. We did a webinar with her, I think it was like a year or two ago. And she said it best with, it's how your clients know your lights are on. That's why we like email marketing, because when you don't have a storefront, they're like, how do I know that this person's still active? Are they still in business? But if you're sending emails, they know, yes, they are. They're still working, still going full throttle. So that's a great analogy that I just love sharing in there. But getting started with email marketing, it doesn't see social media. You can jump right in. Email marketing, same, but it will take a little planning. But it can be easy though, because here's a couple high level things to think about with email marketing. Is, first of all, just make it repeatable. That's going to save you the most time. So by using templates, consistent layouts, just make it easy to repeat the process. So maybe you have, the top sections just like, what have you been up to lately? Maybe the next one's about highlighting a destination, and then next one, a supplier, or something, whatever it might be, and just keep it consistent that way. And it'll make it much easier for you to plug in that content as you're building it out. A next one is themes. So every email, needs that main point or a headline purpose. So that's, again, why you want to plan ahead and look at it and say, like, what is the theme for this newsletter or this email? What is the purpose? What am I trying to get them to do? Which, again, brings me to goal here, actually, is, what is your goal? Is it driving more interest? Do you just want to stay in touch? Or is it pushing audience down the funnel? So basically, once you get their email address, maybe they aren't a client yet, they haven't booked with you yet. And so you're trying to push them down, that you're trying to stay on top of their mind. And then also like, oh, wow, that looks like a cool, experience. I'm going to inquire about that type of a thing. So really awesome there. And then the other one, the biggest one that always comes, is like, how do you grow your audience? Because that's the whole part of it. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Using lead magnets is one of them. That is going to really help. Or having promotions to grow your list. Like, if you want to do some type of, it doesn't have to be like a giveaway or anything, but just some type of promotion or just a lead magnet. Maybe you create like a packing list, and that literally is all you do, and you make it in Canva, and then you start collecting emails that way. There is a lot of different ways that you can do that to grow that audience. And then when it comes to scheduling, we say, 1 to 2 times a month is sufficient. You don't have to do it every week, because that's where a lot of advisors are like, I do not have time for that, but that's okay. If you just do 1 or 2 a month, that can definitely be sufficient. It is going to, again, keep you top of mind for people, even just once or twice a month, that consistently happening.
And one quick thing on that.
Mm-hmm.
So in the chat, someone that's attending, Nicole, had a really good counterpoint to us of, hey, email marketing sounds great, but so many people don't like getting so many emails. And I hear you. I hear you, Nicole. My counterpoint to that is no one likes getting crappy emails with boring content and information. Many people, maybe most people, enjoy getting emails that are helpful, give them great information, great insight, introduce them to new things, experiences, products that they might want or are interested in. People are definitely open to that. But I do hear you. Now, the only other part of my counterpoint it would be is, how did most of you find out about this webinar?
Yeah.
Email marketing.
It was email.
So email marketing is one of the only types of mediums or channels that every time your audience goes to it to look at it, they're making a decision. Not true with anything else. TV, radio, print ads, they're not always making decisions. They might just be consuming. Email marketing, they're actively going to look for something, check something, and they're deciding if they're interested or not. That's not true of many, many other platforms. So you just have to think about that context and really think about the quality of the content and how you're providing value to your audience in email marketing. The other thing is to echo what Stephanie's saying on scheduling, we are not saying spam people. Find lists, grab people, and just pummel them with emails. That is definitely not what we're saying. Once or twice a month is more than adequate in terms of email marketing to making sure you're staying in front of people and staying current. And so, totally hear you on that point, Nicole. And that's a really good point and something to always be aware of. But I also think a lot of people kind of get email marketing wrong sometimes. And so you really want to think about how you're providing value through those touch points along the way.
Jesse in here said, been doing a weekly easing for 6 to 7 years and grown the list to 12,000 and get lots of booking from it. Like, that's incredible. What if you hadn't been doing that for 6 or 7 years? Like, it does take time. But it's just so big, and it does, you start to trust the person. And, a lot of people probably look forward to certain emails more than you think too.
Yeah. Well, here's a great case in point. So Jesse just chimed in on the chat saying, I've been doing a weekly e-zine or e-newsletter for 6 to 7 years. It's very successful. She's grown her list to 12,000 and gets lots of bookings from it. So that's a great example of just investing, providing value, and it starts to pay off over time that way. So great work on that, Jesse. That's incredible.
Yeah, so awesome there. And the other thing too is the tools. I already saw that question already at the beginning before we dove in. There's a lot of them out there. I would go check them out. Just Google, the different ones, or ask our Facebook group as well too, which I'll share that. But if you MailChimp, these are the top ones that I feel like I hear the most is MailChimp, Constant Contact, Travefy landing pages. You can do that too. So set up a training and we can show you how that's possible. But there's a lot of options out there though. So definitely do a little bit of homework and see what works for your budget, because it will start costing. I don't think it's super crazy. But you just want to Flowdesk. Another one just came in. So there's a lot out there. So definitely check those out. But yeah, email marketing, again, a whole webinar could be just on that, which we've had before. So that will be in the article that I share after this, that you can go watch that if you really want to dive more into that. But now the third and final one that we want to talk about here is blog articles and SEO. So little search engine optimization. Now I'm gonna let Scott talk about this one, just so you can hear his voice instead of mine for a little bit. Okay. And he's really good at this topic.
Yep. So creating blog articles and doing search engine optimization for many people might sound really complicated to begin with. We're going to keep it really simple and really focus on the content and, why you want to do it, how you want to do it, et cetera. We're not going super in depth because there are a lot of ways you can tiptoe into it without kind of jumping into the deep end of it. So, firstly, why it's important. This is how you're found on the internet for all practical purposes, is making sure you have good searchable content on your website, on social media that link back to your website, et cetera. And that's how you can be found. But the bottom line, the underlying reason to do blog articles and search engine optimization well is that it is a long-term investment. So you need to start investing now. So if any of you are, thinking about your mutual funds and your retirement, your 401ks, or whatever that might be, whether you're, I know 401ks don't exist for a self-employed travel advisor. I'm not an idiot, but you get what I'm saying is that you need to start investing now, because if you wait 5, 10, 20 years, it's too late. So for example, with Travefy in the early days, I did a lot of landing pages to help create traffic to our website and focused on specific things that people were searching for. Now, those same pages at their peak in there would create upwards of 30,000 unique visitors a month. They're still getting thousands and tens of thousands of visitors every month. So it's pretty incredible in terms of once you make that investment, they start paying dividends and then continue to pay dividends for a long period of time. So that's why it's important. And it's much more simpler than you think. So firstly, you want to start identifying the areas that you want to be found for online. So you need to start thinking about what are your specialties, what are the geographical areas you want to focus on for customers. Like maybe you're in the downtown Chicago area, like Stephanie is. Maybe you're in, Eastern Nebraska, like I am. That sounds really boring when I say Eastern Nebraska, by the way. So
very specific geography.
Yep. But then also, what do you want to specialize in? What do you want to sell? Destination weddings, river cruises, et cetera. All of those things feed into the type of content that you want to create and start pushing out there on a regular basis. So good examples for content ideas. If you're just talking like a blog, document your own travels and fam trips that you go on. You have so much information and content and expertise, history, cultural facts, things that you encounter while you're going through your own travels, as well as on fam trips, that can create amazing and multiple really great blog articles that feed the purpose of search engine optimization. You always want to make sure that those articles keep feeding into those main ideas and those focus areas that we just talked about in the previous point. You might want to highlight customer travels. Maybe you want to create like a blog article that essentially is a mini case study of a customer's trip. Maybe they did a safari in Africa and you want to kind of document some high points of that. Maybe you did a destination wedding or a family reunion and document some of that within a blog article, feature some of the customer photos. Your customers might find it really flattering too along the way to do that for them. They might think it's really cool. But then also content from suppliers. You all are in a perfect spot. Suppliers want to get their content out there. They create and invest tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars of creating really fantastic content, and they would love it if you would use it. So use it. So contact your favorite BDMs that align with the suppliers that align with your goals. Get the content from them. A lot of them have pre-made libraries that you can just use and start getting that content out there. And generally speaking, as far as I know, it's always free to use because they want to sell more product with you. You have shared interests that way. So lots of different content avenues that you can use within there for search engine optimization and creating blog articles. Now, tools. Really straightforward. There are lots of different free tools out there that you can use to do blogs. I'll put a quick mini plug in for Travefy. With Travefy's website builder and landing page builder, you can actually create a section for your blog and then add in multiple blog entries and start, creating kind of an archive of those in there. You can do that. It's pretty straightforward. But then there are tons of blogging platforms like WordPress and others that are completely free or dirt cheap to be able to start setting up your blog in there. But what I would recommend anytime you do any type of medium or major trip of your own, start documenting it. Walk through your research process, what you learned along the way, what the hotel or the resort, the tours, the activities, things that you wish you could do over again or do differently next time, what new destinations you want to go to. Any of that serves as inspiration for your clients and demonstrates your expertise. And it's great to document along the way with photos and video with that in there. So, those are a couple tips that I wanted to share just to help you start thinking about how you can start blogging and diving into search engine optimization with SEO.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it. See, that's why I had to let him take it away because blogging SEO. So Scott also on SEO stuff. That's what with Travefy, we started doing blog posts right away, and they're still coming in from like 2013 or yeah, like 2013. Like it's crazy.
And we wrote some pretty silly blog
Yeah.
articles back in the day that still get a lot of traffic. That if
Yeah.
you looked at them, you'd be like, how to not get attacked by a mountain lion.
Yep.
And
Those
we're getting
exist.
like thousands of
Yes.
visitors from
It's
it.
so funny. It's like, wow. So you never know what is,
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, start long-term investment is right. So
Yep.
start now. Yeah. So really awesome. But then of course, there's a lot of different things. So we focused on SEO, blogs, and email marketing, social media. There's so much though. There's the landing pages. We do have also on a webinar, because I saw one question asking some questions about the landing page, but we do have webinars on those. You can also just watch videos if you go to travefy.com/support. These are really awesome. They have like built-in SEO for like that. You can really start helping your SEO just by using those, which is really cool. Also, of course, we've talked about this already today, but the promotion side, if you do have promotions or just certain times of the year that you need to start booking stuff and getting things in people's minds. A big one, live virtual events. This was really big during the pandemic, last few years, but it still is holding up pretty well. So if you want to do these live or virtual events, with like a supplier, with an organization, I hear a lot of really cool stories out of doing stuff like that. And then of course, video. I know someone asked about video blogging. Yeah, that is such a good one. Video, start a YouTube channel, create real stories. There's so many things you can do now. It's really crazy. And you can do it on like Instagram or, they have the tool free, like tools to edit things. So really awesome there. And then a big one that I've heard before too, is a Facebook group. There's some agents who do have their own Facebook group. And so they'll have all their travelers, their clients come in that way. So I would just do like a little research before, just seeing if that is something that's good for you. If you're able to, make that work and manage it, but that's something I do here. So that's another really big one there too. And then some bonus tips here, just to kind of leave you with is, of course, systems to get organized. Some of the big ones, the Google Sheets again, or Excel, the Trello, Asana, for task management, workflow, social media scheduler, Canva. We love Canva. To create graphics. It's so easy. But there's also a one that I like to plug is free stock photos. So if you ever need just like a photo, just go to, unsplash.com, pixabay.com. Those are really great photos and they're free to use. So you can use those. So really helpful resources. Another thing too is inspiration ideas. Share them with everybody. And so we actually have a Facebook group. So we have a Travefy official Facebook group that you can go search for and find. And just ask what other people are doing. A lot of advisors, it's a lot of, you can ask your Travefy questions in there, but you can also ask like, hey, is anyone doing this? Or have you found that video is working for you type thing, check out all that. And then of course we have all of the freebies. So this is my favorite part because there's so much stuff. So I'm going to share the link of this with you here. But we have a lot of stuff. So we have that marketing plan worksheet, which we'll talk about in a minute here. And then the social media scheduling download. But then I also threw in, because we've had a lot of webinars and podcasts on a lot of these topics before. So I have those all in here. We also have like some content ideas for blog posts, getting into that Facebook group, and then also, starting a free trial of Travefy if you haven't. So that way you can try out like the landing pages, the website, all that stuff that we were talking about today. But I'm going to also talk about this. So Scott, I don't know if you want to share while I share this link, if you want to share, this is the freebie download that we've been talking about.
Yeah, and if you can zoom in just a little bit so that it's easier to see that. But we wanted to really boil this down to one or two pages that kind of maps and follows along with what we walked through on the webinar today. So that first section are the goals. So 3 goal outputs. So those are the goals that you want to try to work towards and achieve during 2023. You don't have to have 3. We just left space so that if you have additional goals that you can really focus on those and keep it simple. Just jot down those sentences, print this this off, jot down those sentences of goals. And again, it can be different types of goals. Doesn't have to be just sales driven or something like that, but start documenting those out. Next, that second section, your target audience. So you really want to be thinking about your goals in conjunction with your target audience, like we talked about earlier. And so you can start mapping that out of who are those main target audiences and demographics that you're going to be focusing on to be able to achieve those goals with in that first section. Now, next, we'll talk about the channels and the action. And so Stephanie did a good job of laying this out so that you can kind of see how these work together and how those channels work. So for example, in those 3 columns, again, you might have more than that. You might only need 1 or 2. Just really focus on that and think about how you want to invest your time with that. But we left spaces for 3 different channels, and I'll walk through a couple examples. Maybe that first one is Facebook. Maybe you know a lot of your audience, a lot of your target customers are on Facebook. So in that top little box section, you just write Facebook. And then in that larger vertical area under where you wrote Facebook, you'd start talking about how are you going to engage with your audience within Facebook? Is it regular posts? Is it resharing customer reviews from trips? Is it sharing supplier content? You're just starting to get a little bit deeper of how you're going to start tackling that goal within that channel of Facebook. Another one might be, for example, you want to host community events or live events or something like that. So that second column at the top, you'd write events. And then in the box below, you'd start documenting and writing out what are the types of events or different ways that you're going to start pulling that off and working towards that goal with live events. So those are just a couple examples of how you can start to actually build out this plan and add body and depth to it that gives you a roadmap of where you want to go, how you're going to chart your course for the year with it. So that's the idea on that first page. Now, the second page, this is where you can start to get even another level deeper and start plotting out, okay, based on those channels and those ideas for each channel, how can I start mapping that into different types of actions that I can take every month throughout the year to stay consistent and current? It also will help you start thinking about, well, if I want to do this in March, that actually means I need to get started on it in January. I need to get going right now. Similarly, maybe you want to do a big Black Friday promotion in November. You might want to do certain things with that. Well, you need to get started on that probably in September or October, something like that. So it really helps you start thinking through and being very strategic of that. You can totally print this out on 2 pages, mount it in your office where you can continue to look at it. But then also, once you map this out at the beginning of the year, also know it's okay to make changes to it. If you determine you learn things or find things getting into the year that determine and really tell you, I need to update my marketing plan, that's okay. That's not off the table. So feel free to have the flexibility and the latitude to make changes along the way. But this 2-page sheet that Stephanie put together is going to be super, super helpful just to keep it simple and help you get into it. Then in future years, you may want to add to it based off of what you found is helpful for you and your business and your channels. You might want to tweak it, things like that. But that's just kind of an initial, first pass through creating your marketing plan with a simple doc like that.
Yeah, it's so cool. Well, and shout out to Scott for making it simple, because I was like, wait a minute, how, just trying to think. But this is, and it makes so much sense. It's really cool. And I laid out here too in when you want to go download that page, we give you some examples down at the bottom too. So you can also read those if you are like, wait, what is supposed to go here again? So it just makes it easy though. That's the whole thing, is like, again, we just want this to be simple and easy and obtainable in there, which is just the most important part. And then one thing too that I want to point out too is for that social media template that I had talked about. So one thing when you're downloading this is you'll just click the download template, but you will notice that it's in a Google spreadsheet. So, look at all the people already in there. How
I
exciting.
love it. That's awesome.
I love it. I know. It's so
cool.
exciting.
They're getting after it, Stephanie.
I
You
know.
inspired them.
That made my whole year of 2023. We're already good. It's awesome. But if you click file and then you just need to click make a copy. Now you do have to have a Google, like a G Suite account or a Google account. But then you'll just be able to make the copy. So just FYI on that, that's how that will work. But again, all of this will be in here. I shared that link out. But I also will have it if you go to Travefy or academy.travefy.com. I'll update this article today, this one that you would have used to register with potentially, and I'll put all those links in there too. And then we'll also get the recording on YouTube so you can watch it. But again, if you just come to academy.travefy.com, you'll find all of that in there, which will be cool. And then I also just want to do a quick plug that at the end of this month, so we're going to do 2 webinars, 2 Academy webinars this month. We're going big. We are making 2023 our year, people. And so at the end of this month, we're going to have our good pal, Sandra McLemore, on. And if you've watched her or listened to her before, are familiar with her, she's amazing. She knows her craft, which is marketing and content. And so this is going to pair really well. So at the end of this month, we'll have her on, and she's going to talk about just like goal setting and how you can just make everything streamlined. So it's really going to work with this very well. So don't miss that. It'll be on January 31st. I can't remember the exact time, but around the same time as this right now. But watch your email for that. Email marketing, there it is.
Don't miss it.
And
don't miss it.
media.
She's going to be awesome. So definitely jump on that webinar. It's going to be really good.
Yeah, it'll be really awesome. And again, too, I know there's some questions in here too. Feel free if you want to message us, or we'll go back and we can try to follow up if there's anything that maybe we may have missed. But feel free, again, just email us at professional@travefy.com, or send us a message in your account if you have an account as well. And then Scott and I can help answer those as well. But otherwise, is there anything I'm missing? Any important info?
The only thing I'm going to say, 2 things, actually. Sorry, 2 things. I got to get in on 2 last words. One, continue the conversation on our Facebook group. So if you have other questions, want to connect with other advisors, think about, ask questions on like, how do you do this? How do you do social media, email marketing? What's in your marketing plan? We actually thought, Stephanie and I thought about, it would be fun if you all went to the Facebook group and shared, what are you thinking about your main components, your main goals for your marketing plan in 2023? That would be a ton of fun for everyone to kind of share those and get some ideas based off of that. Secondly, we plugged very minimally Travefy in there. Travefy has a lot of tools for landing pages, creating sample itineraries, social media content, through itineraries and things like that. Go start a free trial at travefy.com if you haven't tested it out. Our team would be happy to walk you through things, answer questions along the way, but just wanted to put in a really mini plug in there for that. So that's the last thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, I love it. This is great. Well, we did it, the first webinar of 2023, and there's only so much more awesomeness to come. And yeah, keep the conversation going, and let us know what you start finding works, because we definitely want to hear. So thank you so much again. Thanks, Scott, for joining us and all of your expertise, as always.
My pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Stephanie, for being the master of the ceremonies and pulling it all together for us.
So exciting. Yes. So it was awesome. And thank you so much, everyone, again, for joining us, and hope to catch you at the end of this month again. So we'll see you then. So have a great rest of your day.
See you, everyone.
See ya.